Awesome. Well, welcome back to the Live Loud Life podcast. Today I'm sitting down with Jenny Johnson, and we are going to be talking about her newish. Did it first start
2020.
2020. Okay, 20. So newish, but been around for a few years. But what they're doing in the local community, East Boulder County, Weld County, with biking and family. So welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So talk to us a little bit. It's called Cyclerie. What is Cyclerie?
Cyclerie, the name was sort of tossed out there. It's French for the word cycling. So that's kind of a play on words, Cyclerie.
Oh, okay.
I didn't know that at the time because I'm a Spanish person more than a French person, but that was kind of a fun twist. And then, but it's Cyclerie, meaning, based in Erie, tried to circle around the Erie community, but also we get a lot of people from Lafayette and Broomfield. And I created it probably in 2019. It had been brewing for a while, but 2020 was when we launched it. And I always had neighborhood kiddos coming over to our house, and we were constantly just, exploring together on the bike. I was kind of the fun mom.
Yeah.
But it was something I loved to do. So I thought, a lot of these kiddos aren't getting the chance to go outside, or maybe their parents are busy, or they're usually just turning to an iPad or the TV screen.
Yeah.
And I started researching it, and there's a huge, huge decline in kids outdoors and that organic play, which is so important in life. And as children, especially, if you try to speak to a kiddo about climate change when they're 7 or, environmental facts, you're just not going to get anywhere with a 7-year-old or an 8-year-old. So, or as young, our campers are as young as 3 and 4. So, but getting them outside in nature and having that experience, it invests a value in them, I think, for future appreciation of the outdoors and just being a kiddo and playing. And so that's how Cyclerie started.
Yeah.
And then the bike aspect of it is so cool because we're able to get from point A to point B much faster than we would walking or hiking.
Yeah.
So it's just more kids on bikes, and you get more adults on bikes by getting more kids on bikes. So that's my philosophy, is just getting more people outside in nature and building confidence.
So walk me through a little bit, so they're on bikes, and are you guys, so I think you just had a camp that just ended.
Yeah. So we have multiple camps. Right now, this summer, we had 2. So we have a Learn to Pedal camp for the really young kids that are just still on a strider or maybe on training wheels. And, or it could be older kiddos that just haven't learned yet.
Yeah.
And we'll usually break those age groups up.
Yeah.
But there's a Learn to Pedal camp that's Monday through Thursday, 3 hours in the morning. And then we have another camp, which is alternating weeks, called Adventure Bike Camp. And that's where what I was talking to you about, where we go somewhere. We have a destination.
Okay.
Yeah, we usually meet at Star Meadows Park in Erie, and we ride to various nature areas. And then the last day of camp is ice cream day.
Nice.
So Dairy Queen usually, but we try to hit up some other local spots if they're open at 10 a.m. because that's when we get there.
Not many are.
Yeah.
That's really cool. I mean, and I think that, obviously that kind of self-develop or starting to develop in 2019, but then 2020 launch, if you will. I think that came around at a good time because so many kids were then yet put indoors for longer periods of time, having to catch up with school based on COVID and everything, just being stuck, and or, they're kind of like hesitant about play dates because it was inside. Right. So it's like, this is all outdoors. It's all exploration. And I think that's so important too, because so much of what we try to at least encourage for other parents, but at least for our own kids, is just that exploration model of just, seeing where things kind of go and develop.
Yeah. I mean, I was devastated, honestly, in 2020 because I had been brainstorming this idea for several years, really since my oldest, who's now almost 10, started riding a bike. And then whenever March 1st, I was going to launch it 2020. And then that was right when the pandemic really was starting to become full swing.
Yeah.
And I was just crushed. But like you were saying, turns out there was a bike boom, a whole bike, what are they calling it? Evolution or revolution.
Yeah.
That's happened.
You couldn't buy bikes anywhere.
Couldn't buy bikes anywhere because so many families were getting out on bikes.
Yeah.
And kids' bikes we're booming. I also sell children's bikes.
Oh, cool.
It's not my primary business at
Yeah.
all. It's just more of a complementary
Yeah, yeah.
aspect for kiddos that are at camp. But
Yeah.
it was crazy.
Is it like specific types, or is it like Striders for just like introductories type of stuff?
It's kid-specific bikes, anywhere from the Strider size, which would be the 12-inch size tire, all the way up to 26-inch tires for the older kids. So
Yeah.
pretty much any kiddo that's not yet able to fit an adult bike.
Yeah. So that being said, obviously your passion for biking and kids, how would you, I mean, obviously I think most people know Strider's like the thing to do, but why is that such a beneficial tool for kids learning how, and or as a sidebar to that, should they be using training wheels at some point in time?
Yeah. So I hate to say it's one way or another, because if you're willing to get your kiddo outside, like whatever works for your family.
Yep.
However, from an expert's point of view, training wheels are a lot harder to teach to balance. If they've been on training wheels before, I can always tell at camp which ones are the Strider kids and which ones are the training wheels, because training wheels are essentially converting your bike to a tricycle.
Yeah.
You're not really learning to balance. So if you can't get a Strider that's even your size for your kiddo, if say they're 7 and they haven't rode yet, you can always take the pedals off of any bike and turn it into a Strider bike. And that's much more beneficial, teaching them to use certain core muscles and balance rather than leaning from side to side.
Yeah.
So.
No, that's a good point. Now, I do have another question to that, because a few of them, my oldest, what he struggled with was he could kill it on the Strider. Like he could go down hills and do everything. But the point when then trying to get him on the pedals, he never could understand like propulsion was all like this. How do you then encourage kids from a propulsive mechanism to being here, grabbing your feet and pushing, versus understanding how the pedals actually work? Yeah,
it's tricky. So it's incremental, right? Just like with anything. So a lot of repetition. There is sometimes an option to bring a trainer bike, a stationary style bike that we can set up. Yeah. Where the bike is still stationary, but the kiddos are on the saddle getting that motion without going anywhere or with risk of falling, just like an adult does at spin class or on a Peloton. It's a stationary bike. It teaches them the different cadences. But when they're really young, that's hard for some of that to click. So we just incrementally go from picking our feet up, gliding, frog jumping, and then eventually they're putting one foot on the pedal. So it may just start with that quick, they have a dominant side, right? And then it just natural progression. And usually our camps are 4 days. The private lessons I'll do are usually 3 to 5 lessons, 30 minutes each. And it's just that small incremental repetition. And the good thing about kids too is like they catch on to things most do fairly quick when you have the repetition is they just get it so fast. Yeah. What was funny, speaking of ice cream, my oldest, he was being a stinker about, we got him this because he wanted a new bike. So we got him a new bike. It was bigger, all this great stuff. And he was kind of intimidated by it. And, we kept asking him. It was like weeks until he even wanted to try it. So he's into bribery. We're like, hey, we'll go get you ice cream if you go ride your bike. And this was Saturday at 8 a.m. He's like, are you serious? I'm like, yeah. He's like, all right, let's go do it. We went outside and he rode it like he's been doing it for like a year. Just like that. He just took off. Yeah. Just a little incentive. And I hate to call it, it is bribery. And it almost always works. But I think part of it too is just autonomy, like giving them, they have the power and the vehicle to get to where they want to go. And once they figure that out, it's pretty inspiring, I think, for them. Even as an adult, like I rode here and it's pretty nice. Oh, I mean, I wish, I think the hard part, as you had mentioned with kids, like in commuting and stuff, sometimes you can't have that opportunity. Yeah. I would love to be able to commute every day to work just on the bike. I think it's such an amazing, I did it in college. I lived at CU Boulder. Okay. I had a car. I think I put like 1,000 miles on my car in like the 4 years I was in college. I never drove anywhere. I rode my bike everywhere. That's nice. And you run into people organically that you wouldn't in a car, because when we're in a car, you shut off from everything. Not to say that I commute everywhere. I still use my car a ton with 3 kiddos and multiple pickups, and we do activities in Boulder. But just having that ability when you have the time to go on your bike is pretty cool. So being now, so you guys moved from Texas. You guys, how many years have you guys been here? Since 2018. 2018. So 4 years. So figuring out the area, I think a lot of people like to know too, what are some of the more
family friendly. Most trails around here are family friendly, but I mean, it could also be just also like elevation gain and things like that. What are some of your favorite trails around here to take, let's say like a family that either has someone on a strider and or learning to pedal so it's not too intense?
Yeah. And you can, I guess before I get to the location specific, you can bring a bike trailer and maybe get your kiddo to pedal halfway with the agreement like, hey, if you get tired, the bike trailer's here. We can throw your small bike, safely in there with you and get from point A to point B. But the Coal Creek Trail is very flat and docile. If you're looking for more of a mountain bike trail, Heil Valley Ranch, Heil, Heil. People get it confused with Hall. Heil Valley in Boulder, they have a fun schoolhouse loop.
Oh, okay. For kids. I actually didn't know that.
Yeah, it's a mountain bike trail. So I would think starting at like age, 4, maybe with Boulder, you never know.
Yeah. Some of those kids are crazy.
Yeah, if your kid has never been on a mountain bike trail, it's a good starting point. There is some elevation gain, but Valmont Bike Park is great too.
Yeah, we love that one.
Just to test out your skills, and then you're not far from home. The car's usually, there in the parking lot if you need to go grab a snack. But just, I guess the main thing is always bring snacks. That's what we always say at camp, like ride, snack, game, ride, snack, game. And Coal Creek Trail. And also just if you have bike paths in your neighborhood, we have several where we are, but it's kind of easy if you can go from the house or find a quick path to school before you take your kiddo out, maybe do some of your own research. And I just say keep it simple and try to find somewhere fun that has a destination. It doesn't have to be ice cream. We have a ton of fun. The kids love just finding any kind of water.
Yeah, water is key. Anything they can
splash. A little river or creek. So
that's awesome. One, have you heard of the Towie strap? That just reminded me.
Yeah, I have. I haven't used one.
Yeah, that was a huge game changer for us for Bowden, my oldest, for some of our rides, because he could go far. And it was crazy at 4.5. We love going to Frisco, where the marina is, and we would ride from Frisco to Breck. And his little legs, he rode from Frisco to Breck and back. And it was like 10 miles round trip. But some of those hills were tough.
Yeah, and elevation's different too.
So the Towie strap is a retractable toe strap, which is huge because what we had used previously did not retract and it almost got caught up in the tires.
Right.
So that's super helpful. But even just small little things, we're just like, hey, do you need a boost? Hook up. And then pull them over the edge, you can go. So that's been smart. A fantastic tool to have.
You probably don't want to hear this being a chiropractor, but I tend to push them up by grabbing their shoulders, which is so bad probably for your back and body.
I do the same thing too, because oftentimes you don't want to hook it up.
And I'm like, oh, what did I do? Oh, that's right. I pumped the kid up the hill.
And you're pushing them.
Yeah, I'm riding up the hill, pushing their back. We call it giving it a boost. Like, do you need a boost? And I'll do it for kids at camp too. Yeah. There are, even though it is Erie, and there are still some significant hills that are tough for kids. That's the other aspect, is getting a quality lightweight bike is pretty key, because imagine if you or I were trying to ride an 80-pound bike somewhere.
Yeah.
But that's the weight to power ratio that we're dealing with in some of the big box store bikes. And you would never expect, yourself to be able to do that. And we're expecting our children to do that in up hills. And
so that's a good point. So talk about some of you had mentioned bikes you sell, because that was some of the things we ran into. Is first and foremost, it was kind of tough. Like when you have a kid, you're like, well, it seems crazy to spend X amount on a bike when they're growing out of it fast, or B, just learning. But it has made a significant difference, because some of the ones we had, they were heavy, B, being that they were used, not really tuned up well. So bearings are very dry and gritty.
Yeah.
Chain is, crap to say the least. And, when you're thinking about it, it's just like, man, and not even also having gears, their torque output or force output based on torque is significantly changed. So it makes it so much harder for them, even when they're just trying to learn. So what do you guys recommend?
If you can find a good used bike, if you don't have the budget, because some of these entry-level kids bikes, say for a 4 or 5-year-old, can be $300 or $400 that are the high quality bikes.
Yep.
If you don't have that upfront money, if you could look for a good quality used bike, and obviously take it to the bike shop and make sure everything is functioning and safe,
tuned up.
Yeah, but if you do have the ability to get into the $400 or $500, $300, depending on the size, market, you can buy that, hand it down to siblings, or a lot of the resale value is excellent on the higher quality bikes. So
true.
You almost always get back at least 50% of what you paid for.
Yeah.
So I don't want to drop any name brands, but I would just say if they're kid-specific design, not something from the bigger box stores. They're designed specifically for children, meaning like their brake levers are the right size.
Yep.
Because so many times you go into these big stores and the brake levers, it's a flashy looking, beautiful bike.
Yeah, they can't even grab.
But they can't even brake and stop. I've seen that so many times at camp. The their parents will come to me like, oh, they're just really timid. And I look and they can't even stop on their own because the brakes are adult levers.
That's a good point.
That they just throw on a kid's bike and then throw it on the shelf and sell it with the cute basket.
Yeah. That being said, is it easier for kids? Because do most kids bike from an early standpoint, do they start with a coaster brake or are they trying to get more to lever brakes? Because I found maybe it's because the levers are too big, but I feel like just the grip strength of kids is kind of challenging to pull levers. So is that partially why they have coaster brake sales? Are coaster brakes advantageous? Because I feel like that kind of throws them off going back and forth.
I personally don't like coaster brakes.
Okay.
But even some of the higher quality brands will put a coaster brake on their teeny tiny bike. But when you're going downhill or if you're in any kind of loose gravel, the coaster brake can cause you to skid.
Yeah.
And when kids are naturally trying to find that cadence and that pedal forward, a lot of times they'll pedal backwards and then they stop and they don't know what's going on.
Yep.
But you and I probably grew up with coaster brakes.
Oh,
we're obviously totally fine. Like I didn't learn till I was, a little bit older, 5. But you see these 2 and 3 year olds riding and they're able to grab the handbrake.
Yeah.
And a lot of you can adjust the brake too on the kid brake so they can grab them a little bit easier. But
and if you have a bike that has coaster brakes, there's a way to take the coaster brakes out. It's actually not that hard. You just YouTube it. You just take apart the hub and you just take the pads out.
Yeah, a lot of the companies that I sell, they have a freewheel kit. If it comes with a coaster brake, you can buy the freewheel kit and swap it out whenever your kiddo
even better
is ready for that handbrake set. But all the bikes that I use to teach with at camp and in my experience teaching tons of kiddos, they're absolutely fine with the handbrake. Even some Strider bikes now that have no pedals come with a handbrake.
They can practice.
Just to teach them that because the stopping power is also so much quicker. They can stop a lot faster with handbrakes than they do that coaster brake action.
And I think like you had said, the coaster brake, as they're trying to learn that cadence, is just so confusing when they're thinking pedals move, I go forward, but then they go backwards and then they stop and it just throws them all off.
Yeah.
That was at least one of the tougher things for our kids. My son, though, now that he knows how to do it, he loves coaster brakes. It's like what we used to do. You could just get it.
Yeah. You can do those with handbrakes too, but
True. So one camp just ended. How often do these camps run?
So normally it's just the summer.
Okay.
In 2020, when school was out of session, we did fall programming and a lot longer summer session. But with the weather in Colorado in October, it can be dicey.
Yeah.
And we ended up having to cancel a few later fall sessions. But I might do a fall program.
Yeah.
90% sure of that, just waiting for staff. Like I'm always unsure of, the staff that we have is usually college kiddos transitioning off to college, or they just graduated high school and they move out of Erie, off to school. So once we get our staffing figured out, then we go ahead and open the program. So it'll probably start in like September, October, and it would just be 4 or 6 weeks, once a week. So in the summer we do pretty much daily, Monday through Thursday, 9 to 12. And then the fall would be once a week, just like you would go to dance class weekly or soccer practice weekly.
So that'd be like an evening class, not a weekend?
It'd be an afternoon, probably like 4 to 5:30 is what we've done in the past.
Cool.
So, yeah.
Do you guys ever go up to the Erie Bike Park with the age groups?
Yeah, we do.
Nice.
Our summer camp this year, we always have, naturally, there's sometimes more of an advanced group, and then there's a group that's a little more cautious. And so those break out into 2 different age groups, advanced and beginner. So the advanced group this year, they went to the pump track.
Cool.
Because they're able to ride longer too.
Yeah.
So from Star Meadows Park, it's probably, I would say, 5 to 6 miles round trip to get to the pump track and back. So the group that wanted to hang out closer to home, we did that.
Yeah.
And still explored and saw, we think of the ice cream store that day, but we went nature, discovery. And then the older kids were like, we really want to go to the pump track. So we made it happen.
Cool.
Sort of let them decide what they're going to do. And there's a safe route to get there. And
That's awesome.
So the pump track's really fun,
Yeah.
but it is one of those places where you just have to know the rules, know which way to go, because there can be other kids there and it can be dangerous. So.
Yeah. I've seen a couple collisions there already.
Yeah.
But it is fun, man. The kids love that. It's such a fun thing for them to do.
Yeah. And it's a great starting point too if you are thinking about doing some mountain biking.
Yeah.
Like the pump track's a great way to just get used to the hills and gravity and
yeah. That's awesome. Well, I know it's kind of in the infancy. Well, not infancy. It's been around for a couple of years. But what are some of the? Do you have any other plans or things with it moving forward that you want to be able to do with it?
Yeah, I would like to get more grown-ups involved. So we've thought about doing. Especially,
I think that'd be huge because I know, like my wife knows how to ride a bike, but we've tried doing some mountain biking and stuff, and she's just like, I just don't really know how to like approach or deal with even obstacles and things like that.
No, I mean 100%. If I learned a mountain bike in Texas, so mountain biking in Colorado, I had to step up my game big time. So I can see why the barrier to entry is there because mountain biking trails in Colorado aren't green trails always.
Yeah.
But then, it's, and there's this machine that you have to learn how to operate and make sure the tires are aired up and the chain's lubed and everything has to be dialed. Then that's half the battle just to get out on the trail. So I can see why there are a lot of people that are hesitant to get involved in the sports. So we've thought about having some clinics, obviously teaching families and parents, all right, here's what to do if you get a flat tire. Here's a flat tire clinic. If something were to come up, we're going to give you the tools so you feel empowered to go out there. Something were to happen, you can change your flat. Also, just basics in mountain biking classes, maybe just starting out with trail etiquette. Like if someone's
That's a good point.
coming up behind you and you feel panicked or nervous, like, you don't have to get over right away. Like you get over when it's safe and announce when you're coming, just basic trail etiquette, just to feel comfortable. And then we'll get to maybe more of like the small drops or going over big hills or big rocks and roots. But that's how I see it moving forward, is doing some group rides, family group rides, then maybe some clinics, especially more for the moms that are involved, because there's so many moms that come to me saying, I don't even know what bike to buy. What about the bike trailer? And what do I need to connect a bike trailer to my bike? Like, there's a lot of details.
Yeah.
And I'm always trying to remember, okay, not everyone's been doing this for 10 years and this is new to everyone. So what may seem easy for some people, I just try to break it down and make it open to everyone, because there are so many people in the last 2 years that have gotten into cycling with the pandemic. And it's sad to think that their equipment's just sitting in their garage.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Because they're, feeling stumped. So,
well, I think that was the thing too. We saw a lot of people just like, what do I do? And then just bought it. And like you said, just kind of sits there and not actually being used.
Yeah. So we're thinking about, not just thinking, we are planning some programming to have that happen.
And then we're going to have some races and all of that.
Yeah. We just need a location to have a hub to get this all started. And then I have so many ideas for the racing. I would like to call it events more than racing. But,
great. No, events, great.
It's some kids just love the competition piece of it. And just giving to kids what we would have as adults, like a little podium and some medals and just fun prizes, quality giveaways. So that's also on the radar too. But
that'd be awesome.
Yeah. The single track is a little dicey to have a race there. For some kids, it can be intimidating, but it could be somewhere in like a flat field. It doesn't have to have huge hills or jumps. So if anyone has any recommendations or any opportunities that they're aware of, please connect with me, because I'm looking for some opportunity to do that.
Yeah. I'll keep my eyes over that, because there's some. I actually saw, I don't even know, speaking of, races, there was an obstacle course race I recently saw on some random farm in East Erie, like near I-25.
Interesting.
It was off a county road. It was off a Erie Parkway.
Okay.
And south of that. And I was just like, what are all these people doing? And they were running an obstacle course race out there.
Okay. It may have been the Recess Factory.
Oh, okay. I didn't look up what it was. I just saw an obstacle course. I was like, this seems super random.
Open anymore, but it used to be like a mud run type setup out there.
This was only like a month ago.
Okay. Yeah, I'll have to I'll have to connect you with that person, but I'm pretty sure that could have been what it is. Okay. But But it was on foot, right? Like a foot.
Yeah. It was just a bunch. It was exactly like what you would see like a Tough Mudder or a Spartan race, but it was just like
those are pretty popular.
This field out there.
Because I know the Rad Rover event that the town does is really popular.
Rad Rover? I've not heard of that. What is that?
So Rad Rover, the town of Erie, they do that I think it's July.
Okay.
It might be coming up I'm not sure. Don't quote me on the dates, but last year it was in July, about this time. I think they used to try to have like a kids triathlon.
Oh,
and it
cool.
wasn't as successful.
Yeah.
And so they just focused more on keeping it simple, the Rad Rover, like one sport. And that seemed to do really well.
So that's a biking event?
No, sorry. It's an obstacle course event.
Oh, okay.
And it's put on by the town of Erie. But I would like to do something like Rad Rover, but only do the bike.
Yeah, I got
Instead of incorporating any kind of like swim, bike, run, like just keeping it simple for kids. I think that's key.
Yeah, limit the variables.
Yes. But kids triathlons do happen, but there's a lot involved to getting
for sure.
Mm-hmm.
For sure. Yeah. Well, also from just setup, but liability issues with water and stuff. That's a whole nother game.
Yeah, and I think just exposing kids to that, I don't know, not even competition, but just, hey, like my neighbor's doing this. Like this is a normal thing. Like we go out and we run together and we have fun and we high five at the end. And like, I don't know, for me, I'm not super fast, but I love doing little races.
Yeah.
Cyclocross events and things like that.
Well, I didn't even think of, I just think of too, like we did the turkey trot last year in Erie. Like our kids had a blast, and it's the thing that everybody does. There's 5K trots and races all the time, but there's really not. And granted, I think it's harder to structure bike events like that because there's road closures and things like that. From a kid's perspective, they love anything like that.
Yeah, and it can be small. It doesn't have to be anything grandiose. And I don't know. I just love the community aspect of events like that. Whether I'm going fast that day or not, I just like at the end, everyone's hanging out. It's family oriented, so I foresee that for Erie.
Have you done the Venus de Mile since being out here?
No. I do cyclocross.
Oh, okay.
And I actually, funny enough, my kiddo got me into that last fall.
Yeah,
because it's basically like riding a road bike on gravel.
Yeah.
So it's like a unique kind of torture in a way.
Jump over obstacles. Yeah, do crazy stuff.
You carry your bike.
Yeah.
So I primarily mountain bike. I do some road biking, but racing, the cyclocross was really fun.
Yeah.
So
that's cool.
And most of them are in Boulder. I would love to see one in Erie.
Yeah.
Because the cyclocross races have men's, women's, and little kids, and so it's a family event that everyone can do on a Saturday. And
I think they could do. They just need to find, there's enough open
permitting and getting people out to Erie. I think a lot of people, and Lafayette too, I think a lot of people think this area is still like cows and pastures. Yeah. But there's such a market for young families, and I don't know, it would be great to not have to drive into Boulder for every outdoor event. Yeah.
True. Mm-hmm. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing all those things come up. I think that's going to be awesome. And we'll keep eye open for what happens for fall. And so I should say before I forget, because I'm always bad about this, how do people learn more? Where do they find more information? How do they connect with you? If they wanted to get into the camps or just stay in the loop about when camps are, when events are, so on and so forth.
Yeah. So it's cyclerie.net. CYCLERE.
Like it is, yeah.
LERIE.net.
Not the French version.
Yeah,
right?
Cyclerie.net. And I'm most active on Instagram.
Okay.
It's at Cyclerie.
Yeah.
So you can find me there. I'm Jenny Johnson. I have a Facebook page as well and a website that has all of the program information. So we always have summer programs. The registration usually opens March 1st. And if you're ever interested in private lessons or getting a group of kids together too,
good point. Yeah,
we do that year round as long as it's not too cold.
Yeah, that's sweet.
There's not snow on the ground. We'll usually have our bikes out as a family.
Thing about Colorado. Yeah, you can do that. And then, do you guys have like a newsletter or anything, or is that where most things are announced? Like if there are group rides or anything coming up or anything like that?
Yeah. We're actually kicking off a newsletter this fall.
Perfect.
Previously had just relied on social media, but I know a lot of times that can just be inundating with so many events. So the newsletter and direct email is going to be our next method of communication for bigger events.
Yeah. Great. Well, thanks for spending time and sharing about this. I think this is awesome. I can't wait to see how it builds and grows, because we're huge on like just family bike rides together too. Like we have the trailer, we have the towee. We love packing up and just be like, hey, we're gonna go somewhere new, ride, see what happens. So this is amazing that you're doing it.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Of course.